to a meeting of the Bargersville Storm Water Utility Board. Open that up there. First thing to do is pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Roll call from my right there.
John Bear.
Kent Gross. All right. Minutes from our previous meeting there.
You good?
I'm good. I don't want that to be in
I move to approve the June 27, 2022 minutes as presented.
there. All right, we'll second that. I've got a motion and a second there to approve our June 27th, 2022 meeting minutes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that motion passes 2-0. All righty. Old business, Joe,
Old business, an old friend.
no friend,
Been
rare
along,
dead.
been around since I was given stormwater September of 2020. Which is why I asked Mary to, with Westler, to come down and take a look at kind of what's going on out there with the improvements they put in. They did issue a technical memo, including your packet,
Yeah, that's not-
with some recommendations with folks from Bantam. Something came up today and they were not able to attend tonight. They did ask me to let them know kind of what the board's thoughts were. Mary, do you want
Yes,
to
of
elaborate
course.
a little bit on what you saw?
Yes. All right, so Mary Atkins with Westler Engineering. And as you can see in your packet, there's kind of a summary of what the proposed problem was. And the major issues that had been documented were silt entering the Almar subdivision and the amount and velocity of stormwater runoff coming from an area that used to be a gravel parking lot, but then it was paved, causing an increase in runoff. So we took a look at that. The problem had been a proposed solution had been constructed, and two 8-inch plastic pipes had been placed, and then a berm and a riprap forebay had been installed. There were plans that were put together by, oh my gosh, I can't remember. Yes, Crossroads had put the plans together. And so we kind of compared, looked at their calculations and looked at the sizing of the forebay that had been installed in the 8-inch plastic pipe. Then we went out and did a site inspection and did find the 8-inch plastic pipes and saw signs of that those are detaining the water, right? So just upstream of those pipes, you can see where sediment is deposited and you can see where water stands and things like that. So I didn't actually observe it functioning, but that there were signs that the area was holding water. The riprap forebay also appeared to be approximately the same size it had been designed. The shape of it isn't exactly how it was designed. It was designed as a square, and it's a little more roundish, ovalish. But it approximately looks like similar in size to what the forebay on the plans for it was. There was just one issue that we noticed is that just as you go out of the forebay, there's kind of like a rock spillway, right, that holds the water back. And the rock spillway should really have like a weir in the middle, where when the water goes over, it spills over and then it stays in the channel. And it's a little higher in the middle and shallower on the sides. And so it looks like you can see the debris is kind of going around the sides. So that would just be one thing, is to kind of extend that riprap spillway so that it ends uphill, right? So that the water comes down the middle. So that's kind of the first proposed resolution, which was page 2 of number 1 on page 2. And then to just perform regular inspections of the detention area and remove collected debris, trash, sediments, and then repair any eroded areas. So if it continues to, water finds its way however it wants, that they just inspect that regularly to make sure that the water's flowing the way that it should, and to clean up debris and things that collect within that 4-bay area. So if you have any questions, I think it's all kind of there. There's kind of an exhibit showing the location where we might add a little riprap to extend that spillway out a little bit. So anyway, if there's any questions or it's covered pretty well.
So no, I think my only walkout, I drove out there today and took a look at it there, since I know this is going to be a discussion point tonight. And exactly as you said, on the backside of that 4-bay right there, it does kind of, it's heaped in the middle and it kind of goes out, and you see where the water's actually cut around the outside of it there. It's the same centralized and comes over the top of the spillway. I've always had concerns that that 4-bay itself really isn't that big, a whole bunch of water in it, period. So I think at some point, you get enough water, just kind of, I'm worried that it tops the whole thing. At some point, it tops the whole thing. I know if you make this modification to the back of that 4-bay, it's going to initially go there. And if we do extend that riprap up to the sides, it will do a better job of containing the water. But I still think at some point in time, it just kind of tops that whole thing down through there. And I didn't see any notes of erosion on the outside of it yet, because it does initially, before they put this structure in place, you can see where it came down along the sidewalk that they had, or the gravel pathway. It got behind all of this stuff here and was eroding on the backside. I think that's been taken care of now, because it looks like they've kind of built it up now, so at least that much water doesn't go over the backside of it, like it used to anyways.
Yeah.
So it's kind of going through the structure itself, but to me, is the structure itself really?
Yeah,
I'm sure it's dropping out some sediment, just because of the riprap and stuff like that. So you're already slowing that water down through there. You spread it out across that, that piece right there. But I don't know. It's got to be better than it was. That's all I know. It's got to be a lot better than it was.
Yeah, I think we haven't had a rain that
Had that.
has been,
3-inch rain there. To see what happens.
well, so the video that I had sent really showed what was happening in the in a bigger event. Now, that really wasn't necessarily a 100-year storm per se, so I think, we could really see some more erosion happening. Because what happens is it tops that whole thing, and that's what it showed in the video. It does just what Mary's saying. It gets around there where it's not protected, and that's what's eroding. And then what it does is it goes back over where that kind of third entry point used to come in. It gets in over there, and that is just not protected very well. It's not rip-wrapped. So, I think that's just a susceptible area, unfortunately, that all of us is rather susceptible because of the wooded. It's wooded, and it's just not going to grow grass. Now, I went out there again today. I hadn't been over there in a while. Neighbor had done, he cleaned up and paid and did that whole
section down through there.
down through there. He did that on his own.
So your pictures of people.
Yeah, so it's just inundated, right? I mean, it's just topping exactly what Mary's saying. And where it's going is, these non-protected areas. The bulk of it goes down the chute, but it's so undersized that it goes around it, and it's just going to continue to do that unless those banks get stabilized right in there. Yeah.
Here the tops goes on the backside.
Yeah.
Which is probably, now, granted, I think it's hard, probably now, since it's got that time to actually grow this grass back up and stuff like that there. Probably isn't like this anymore.
No, well, it's hard to say because it's still overgrown,
Yes.
which is a good thing from that, I mean, it's weeds, it's not grass.
So it's holding some stuff.
So-
So the problem is they die in winter time.
Mhm.
There's nothing there to really. So that was my concern, is when it gets too big, it just tops it.
Yeah.
And then gets behind it.
Yeah.
And then we have, it's okay, this one, this should be relatively cleaner water. This should be, eventually, I would think, clean itself up there. There's really nothing up here anymore now than at least sediment.
You would think everything is
I would think it was.
generally stabilized
Yes.
upstream.
Yes.
This was a pre-stabilized event.
But there's grass and stuff over these areas now.
Yeah.
This is back to grass now. So in the future, I think it will be better, but still, when you have a bigger event, it tops it, goes around it, and it comes down the side, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, and so I think there's two, you know, you got the two 8-inch pipes that are supposed to back it up onto the parking lot and back up into a swale area.
And that's what it's doing here.
Yeah, and then it looks like it's over top, so
Yes.
Yeah.
to make
It's not
sure that,
attention up here anyway.
make sure there's a point where you want that to overtop,
Yes,
so that it goes into the forebay, and that your forebay has that weir, where that's where you want it to flow, right, instead of just having it flow wherever. So that would be, I think that would be a better solution, is just to make sure that those break points are where you want them to be. And so that it's flowing down the channel instead of overtopping down in the woods there, right? So,
because there's probably still some erosion coming from here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, probably down the path,
Going down the path,
but
because that's where the road is before, you know what I'm saying? So you're getting some erosion here. Which would drop into your forebay, you drop some of that sediment out, that's probably fine enough, that a lot of it goes over top of it. There's your 2 8-inch pipes right here, one of each area, but you can see where it comes over. Here and back up through here, and then once, like I said, once the habitat gets too big, then it starts going around the outside of all of our structures, you know? So. Yeah, because there's really not, when you look at it, there's really not that much detention up in these two spots here before it's going to top anyway, so I would think that if you get a quick half inch, it's going to go right on top of that anyways, like. So,
yeah, so I mean, I think doing what Mary said is a good step. I mean, you've got obviously the exposed riprap to the north there. You can see that's not over top. So if you were to extend that down and just get that bank higher and stabilized so that it would stay in the chute, you know, maybe that would help some. But even if it was stabilized enough with just grass, I don't know that the velocities are high enough if it actually would, you know, be stable now. You know, that's the other thing is I don't necessarily want to mess with it and again and now have more dirt coming down on us again. So it's, you know, it's a catch-22 a little bit. But it is hard to see because it's got so much brush. I didn't walk down in there to see, you know. Yeah. So maybe it's just a matter of monitoring too, and if they, yeah, that really shows us go.
this is that side.
That just blow at that.
So the sidewalk,
Oh, keep
Can
changing
you
to
go
different
back,
picture.
I was going to say, can you go back one picture there? Here's the sidewalk that used to go over top and come up around here, right? So that's that sidewalk. That's this part right here. So here's our two, here's those 2 inch pipes here. So one comes in here. This bottom one comes in right here. Into this, drops into that forebay right here. Top of that forebay right here. And what you can see is on this side right here, they did all this up. I mean, before this water would come right down through here, right down the backside. Right, so it's basically uncontrolled from the backside. We did put this into the structure right here, like that, into the forebay. does to a certain point, and then it tops it. Goes around the backside like these two backs. But it's still got this erosion coming up through here. You got these little detention areas up here, one off the parking lot, one off the field back here. Like I said, just enough rain, it tops it anyways. Over top of the structure. That's the same thing on the left hand side. So if you want to do the, or sorry, there, and go to the next picture, good there. Kind of shows the downside of the door there. Right there. So now, here's the part where it's kind of top on the back side. See the water thing on the back side. Here's that base, here's the forebear, right? Here's that base.
Is that which
That's
direction?
the back
is that
wall.
facing?
the back wall.
Yeah, that's it right there. It's
Here
top
it
on
goes.
both sides.
Here's goes around both sides. This kind of defeat the purpose of both sides of there. First,
Here's the,
I think
build this
yeah, we need to go this up right here.
forces it down.
And then take this down over here in the middle, so it forces it down the middle basically, so it contains it in the middle basically. They want to build this up on this side back here, build this up on this side back here, force it, and then takes it out of here, force it back down the middle right there.
Yeah, and really, it should be, all the elevations should match so that you're not backing up and,
Correct.
you want that rear set at the correct elevation so that it spills over and it's not backing up where you don't want it to go, right? So, but yeah, I think just reconfiguring that and not necessarily making that spillway any higher, seeing this, maybe that's too much of a damping effect,
It's more of
know.
It's gonna top,
Yeah.
in an event anyway. And I think, trying to direct most of the flow down the chute
Mhm.
and then just,
Because it's
having
pretty
it
stabilized
stabilized.
beyond, like it's rock and then on the other side of the road, you were talking about your neighbor, so as long as you can
Yeah.
keep it in that channel, right, that should help.
Because it looked like on the back side of this where it drops down and starts doglegging to the right a little bit when you're walking down it. It looks like all that down through there isn't eroding off the sides anyways. Before you walk down through there, it was just like erosion
Oh,
all
yeah.
over the place down.
all
through there.
over, yeah.
So it didn't look like it was getting behind that riprap down through there and eroding that out from the back
Not
side.
too,
Not
not
yet
too
anyway.
bad. I
Not
mean,
too
you can
bad.
see what
Because
it's,
once it goes over the side, it's this next little leg. Now, the question is do we need to do the same thing here?
Potentially, right, if that's what that.
Because it
looks
goes
like.
around, I looked at it today, it goes, you can see where it's going around the sides here again. You know what I'm saying? Same place it was doing up here, it's doing it down here as well.
yeah.
Mhm.
But when you got down here over the side, and you look back around the side, it didn't look like the banks were being
No,
undercut anyway. It's
And
like it
really,
used to be.
that is helping to slow down
Yeah.
the situation.
Correct.
Which in this event, I mean, it was just, you can see the velocity, that's in the video, it was just like crazy
Yeah, I can't
fast.
find the video there, boy.
I mean, yeah,
I'm sure I have it somewhere.
yeah. But it was just like rocketing down the chute and blasting into the culvert and then down on my neighbor. And it was, that was before he stabilized that. So it was just like carving. I mean, you should see that stuff carving away down on the other side of the road. But if it's stable now and it's not really carrying sediment, it's just slowing stuff down. And with him having done that work, I'm not sure how bad it's gonna get or how much sediment is gonna get taken down into the lake anymore. But we just haven't had an event that puts it to the test. So I really think, either doing what Mary suggested or even just telling them, mow it down so we can see what's going on
Yeah.
and then monitor it. And if it's still eroding, then you go to doing more riprap. If it's carrying brown water, then you have an issue. I don't want to have them do something that's not necessary, but I think likely that the weeds aren't stable enough, and then when you get into winter, that area with the tree cover is just not stable enough, so I think you probably will eventually need to rip that. So the question, do you do it now, do you do it later?
So my question though is this, so even if we go back in here and we kind of take this and make a little concave right here, you know, go with the sides a little bit, so it stays in the middle. We still got a fair amount of water moving down through here. So it's rip wrapped down and around the corner, but it's got about 10 or 12, maybe 15 feet before it hits the road that doesn't have anything in it. You know what I'm saying? There's just the original rock that's in the bottom of it now, basically.
Yeah.
So now we've kind of taken this wide piece and we narrow it down and we narrow it down. So now when it gets down around the corner, but still got so many cubic feet per second of water flowing across it, you basically funneling it back in and getting underneath the road. So on the outside,
Yeah.
you know, once it hits your neighbor's property, now all of a sudden it's got the full flow going down, shooting down his property. Now, I'm not sure what he did if he did any type of retention down through there, putting some rock in or anything like that.
I
Or he
think
cleaned
he
it up.
just
Just
had a
straighten it
guy
out.
come in
Straighten
and
it up.
straighten it out and, you know, laid some stone. And it's not even the bigger stone like this, so I'm a little
I'm
bit
just worried that it's gonna blow it out.
concerned that you may find that his stone's not big enough when it comes to rain. And like you said, it is not protected past this area, and then it drops into an unprotected area. And you can look in front of the culvert, there's still a lot of sediment that's sitting there that has gotten there, but, but the minor rain events that we've had since then, in particular, since he did that work there, the lake has not been brown.
Success.
And I mean, that's like the first time we haven't had that happen with a rain event. I'm just so thankful for that.
Good deal.
So I would like to at least have them come back in and do what you're suggesting here with both of these areas right here. You know what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
You see it in these pictures here where it's actually going around the sides of it basically. So we can kind of come back in and figure out what's this depth, what's our change in elevation need to be here from the side down to the middle right here, kind of like a V shape or something like that, you know what I'm saying there?
Yeah, and, you know, we didn't do survey.
Yeah,
And all that could be designed, but I think that if you just shape it, you know, with a weir in the middle, you know, a notch kind of in the middle, and then make sure it's matching elevations up above, then the water will be forced to go through that and not around the sides, right? So I guess it's up to you whether you want them to do a survey and to get it designed as to an elevation. But I mean, that's a lot of effort.
oh,
They
yeah.
should be
So
able to
maybe
figure it
just
out
try
with
to
the
reshape it.
the
Right,
road.
That's
they
what
can
I'm
just
saying.
reshape it.
They almost got it.
I think
They're
for
very
me,
close, I think.
well, to me, I think really just take these two pictures here and then go, okay, what do I need?
Mhm.
6, 8, a foot down here in the middle, another,
Oh, what I'll do is,
you know, just something like that. That's all
when I
it's
get,
gonna take.
back with the ref, I'll, set up a meeting with them out there. This is, a couple dads could do this on a Saturday afternoon type of thing, I believe. I don't think it's gonna need machinery.
No.
Get the football boys out there, lift the rocks.
Exercise.
My old offensive line coach would have me, I was pushing his grandmother's 76 Eldorado around the parking lot. True story.
Wow.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It's very,
So I think in this picture right here, it looked like it was coming down the side. I think it's going back in, back here.
Yeah, it looked like it's kind of during back in right there.
Driving back in on the wrong side, but yeah, so, like I said, this, you know, we're not gonna be able to stop the 100-year event there,
no,
but most of our normal stuff we should be getting, should be kind of funneled in here, kind of staying inside the channel. Now, my question is, do we need to do anything down here on the backside of this where it's unprotected?
yeah, well, that's a
They're
longer
walking
term
around.
question too, because the culvert
Correct.
is a project you guys need to consider
Yeah.
eventually. I mean, it's not having a dramatic failure like you guys have had over a 3-notch. You know, so I know that you have things on your plate, but it's you know, probably something that could be taken care of then is a proper end section and protection and then finish it out if we still see it's a problem.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so the biggest thing, Mary, is just to control it from going down the backside over there, because once it gets into the woods, there's nothing there to hold sediment back there, basically.
Yeah, other than the
Then
existing
big
table.
fallen trees and whatever else might be, weather debris might be in there, that's about it. So that's probably.
All right,
Go from there. All right,
next item,
thank you, Mary, for doing that too, I appreciate it.
I figured a fresh set of eyes
Yep, yep.
would probably all benefit from it at this point.
Yeah.
More than almost 2 years involved. Our next item is a update for hourly rate reimbursable expense for XYE. This is on Exhibit A in your packet. Standard contract language, as well as an updated Exhibit A with hourly rates. This would be an item for your approval tonight. Was the same schedule council passed?
Yeah, exhibit B is the same one that is really in the planning and zoning, plan review document, but since we have been billings through the stormwater board, and that was in the language, I just kind of left it there. So that was exhibit B, and then exhibit A is a little bit reduced rate for the normal work that we do for the board.
I'm gonna make a motion.
Yep, if you want to.
I move to approve the proposal submitted by IXOYE as presented.
I will second that motion. I've got a motion to approve XOYE's proposal here for their new hourly rate schedule and the professional services agreement. Any discussion? Is everybody okay with it? Joe, okay with it? Seeing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 2-0.
Thank you.
All right.
Moving on to discussion items. Good news on both of these. They're both complete. We did get word from the pond company that the aerator was installed in July, right, Eddie?
Mhm.
So the aerator was installed in Parkview State Pond, so hopefully we won't have any turnover in that pond anymore. It's not designed to keep the algae off.
Correct.
It's just to keep the fish from mass die off like we've seen in a couple of years. The 21s was alarming.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Stratified,
Yeah.
they had that big storm and just, it killed big fish in that pond.
Yeah.
Then the old plate drain, we worked on the easements. I believe Brian's got that work complete. You actually see that reflected in the invoices.
Yeah, I saw that. Noticed that. That was some old plank. So those are done too, huh? Good. But, so that aerator out there, is it just run during the summer, though, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I hope it's, will stay in the pond. We ran a electric service to a post. It's just a plug, it's a GFI predicted plug.
Okay.
So when it starts to freeze, it can just
Pull it out.
unplug it.
Is there anything we need to do for maintenance on that?
I will check it annually. I would anticipate, right, put the calendar once in the spring and once in the fall. And just go by and check it, see how it's working. I'm sure the neighbors will let us know.
Sounds good.
I did actually get the stormwater complaint log in your packet this month.
So is there a way, to go online and see what these are?
There,
Can you go in the system and see them?
I don't know if you can,
Mhm.
can you get the stormwater?
Should, if it's under an STRM, yeah,
So you should,
I think so.
if they're
Like,
available,
by case number?
you can go in and search by case number.
Okay, all right. Any of these big ticket items, just one-off stuff?
Yeah, most of the, standard billings. There's a couple, recorded, encroachment agreements. Legal services. And legal services probably, legal services in the town. Billing system is probably our biggest expenses. That we were going over our stormwater ordinances as we get them drafted.
So these cases here, are these the ones that were just for this?
That is year to date, those are
Okay.
complaints that are escalated to cases.
Okay.
We basically have two levels. We have what we call requests and a case. A request is, hey, there's water piping in my side yard. So we'll go out and investigate it and look. And, well, yeah, there's water piping in your side yard, but it's really not a violation. It's not really anything that the town can do because you're getting an inch of water in your side yard for a couple hours. So we'll close that out. We usually do some public education with that, close that out. And this is not catching, doesn't appear to be catching the violation tickets I write. It seems like every week I'm writing one or two concrete washout violations. The contractors can't seem to wash out into the concrete washout. Well,
Mhm.
the developers can't seem to empty the concrete washout when it's full. Subdivision a couple weeks ago, I had a guy wash out in the middle of the cul-de-sac. No bag, just
Watch that.
brand new pavement.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Well, it's easy to tell what happened.
Surprised they're getting concrete.
It's a large builder, they don't have a problem getting concrete. Any questions on any of the invoices?
So just a quick question for you on complaints and instances where you have to write tickets out. So can you see those in the system as well? I'm assuming. Those come up?
The system limits a little bit based on violations. There's ways to find it, but it won't show up in a public records search,
Okay.
for one reason or another. But it's tied to the same system with grass complaints and trash and animals.
Okay. So those aren't public, would they be public records then?
They are public records and they're just not searchable in the system.
Okay. Should they be searchable in the system?
That's always been a debate.
Ask the council members.
If I don't think we have the ability to differentiate between stormwater, grass, his fence is too tall. Yeah, they have too many dogs. There's some other fun ones we prefer, chickens and ducks. Other chicken complaints. He's one auto shop, that's the garage.
Mhm. Jim, but you
It's
know,
just James, it's James. Gotta get this code enforcement officer on that. So yeah, on a side note, we did advertise for a second inspector position. Code enforcement and building inspection. I would also task that person with stormwater inspections. That would free Tim up, do a lot more of the utility inspections, as well as the residential inspections. Split that up, and I'd be more than happy to have a code enforcement officer to take care of the chickens and ducks.
Anything else for administrative items before we take a look at the treasurer reports here?
So that's all.
All right. 2 months worth of treasurer reports.
I think I just got the most recent months from the first office. I'm pretty sexy on this. One thing that may show up in our next budget cycle, I know our street department is looking at purchasing a gator to help maintain the trails, as far as a plow and a salt spreader. And for those trails, I've offered stormwater to aid in that purchase, as we would use that for the inspections.
That's our new vehicle right here, man. There's a new vehicle.
There you go. Tim and I use the sanitary sewer buddy to go out and do BNP inspections, outlet inspections. Not that we don't need the steps, but that would be a useful item to get this in these rounds of these ponds.
So we'll get that like license there for road travel. License that for road travel.
We put a set down Hardersville sticker on there.
All right. There you go, man. That's a vehicle.
That's right. That's what they said.
Just swap that out, you get your gator trade. Is it gonna have a heating, is it gonna have a cabin stuff on there?
I don't know what the street department spec out on that yet.
I would recommend it, because go for snow pushing in the winter time, so.
We get clothing allowance for warm stuff.
And clothing allowance there. Maybe. If we go in dry in the winter time, man. I would recommend that they have a cab on there, so.
Yeah, I don't know what he spec'd out. Once they get spec'd out, it's close to rural, they will close to your gas bring it back.
Yep.
Figure out what our percentage would be. Just a heads up for when the next year.
Okay.
Move to approve the claims.
All right, I have a motion to approve monthly claims as presented. I will second that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. That motion passes 2-0. Anything else to come before stormwater tonight?
All staff and
That's it. Our next meeting is, okay, the next meeting?
February 26th.
The 26th. All right. Motion closed. I'll say adjourn. All those in favor say aye. 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 Motion passes 2-0. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.